Welcome, everyone. Let's dive right into this masterclass explainer. Today, we're cracking open Experiment 9, and we have an absolutely fantastic roadmap ahead of us. We are going to master two of the most critical foundational hooks in all of React, useState and useEffect. By the time we're done today, you won't just know how to build a dynamic registration form with real-time validation, you'll also know exactly how to pull in external data from a public API. This is the exact kind of real-world functionality you see on almost every modern web application, and we're going to build it from the ground up together. But before we even look at a single line of code, let's think about a real-world scenario. Have you ever wondered how modern websites load your social media feed instantly, or how they tell you your password is too short before you even click submit, all without ever refreshing the page? I mean, think about the frustration of the old web. You'd fill out this massive form, click submit, the page goes entirely blank, reloads, and then tells you that you forgot an @ symbol in your email. It's just a terrible user experience. React solves this by handling data and logic locally in the browser, providing a totally seamless experience. And it pulls this off using two primary tools. Think of these two hooks like the brain and the senses of your React component. First, we have useState. This is your component's internal memory. It allows your functional component to basically remember things, like what a user just typed into a text box, and it instantly triggers a UI update whenever that memory changes. Then we have useEffect. This represents your component's senses, its way of talking to the outside world. We actually call these side effects. Whether you're fetching data from an external API, subscribing to an event, or manipulating the DOM directly, useEffect is the exact hook you're going to need. Now, this brings us to a really crucial piece of industry jargon you need to know: controlled components. See, when we build forms in standard HTML, the browser usually manages the form data all by itself. But in React, we want to be the ones holding the reins. A controlled component is simply an input field where its value is securely bound to our React state and updated exclusively via an on-change handler. We are basically telling the browser, hey, don't worry about this input data, React state is now the single source of truth. All right, let's get our hands dirty. We're going to initialize our project using Vite, and the commands are super straightforward. First, we create our V app using the React template. Then we just navigate into our new exp9 app folder, install our dependencies with npm install, and fire up the development server using npm run dev. It's definitely worth noting here that Vite is significantly faster than older tools like Create React App. Why? Because Vite uses native ES modules in the browser during development. That means incredibly fast, almost instantaneous load times as we build out our code. Once that development server is spun up, you'll notice our project architecture is incredibly clean. We're going to focus all of our attention inside the SRC folder, primarily on three specific files. App.jsx will serve as our main parent component. Then we're going to create two distinct child components so we can nicely separate our logic. Registrationform.jsx to handle our user inputs, and userlist.jsx to handle our API fetching. Organizing your code like this right from the start makes it infinitely more readable and easier to maintain. Okay, let's jump into our registration form and see how this builds out line by line. To create our controlled form, we first import useState. Now remember, useState always returns an array with two elements, the current state value that you read from, and a setter function used to update it. Here, we are passing in an object with name, email, and password all set to empty strings. This is our initial state. We now have a form data object actively tracking our users' inputs, and a setFormData function ready to fire whenever we need to update what they're typing. So the really critical part is how we actually update that state when a user types a key. Inside our handleChange function, take a close look at the syntax. We call setFormData, and inside that, we have ... formData. That three-dot syntax is the spread operator, and leaving it out is a massive beginner trap. The spread operator creates a literal copy of all our existing form fields before we apply the new keystroke. If we didn't use the spread operator here, typing your email would instantly erase the name you literally just entered. We copy everything and then dynamically update only the specific field the user is interacting with. Now for the client-side validation logic. Before we allow any of this data to be submitted, we run it through our validate function. We create an empty new errors object, and we sequentially check our controlled state. First, we use .trim on the name just to make sure they didn't just hit the spacebar a few times. Then, we check if the email string actually includes an @ symbol. Finally, we make sure the password length is at least 6 characters. If any of these checks fail, we attach an error message string to that exact property in our new errors object. It's simple, it's logical, and it's totally instantaneous. Next up is our submission handler. When the user finally clicks the register button, handle submit fires. The very first line inside this function is arguably the most important one for modern single-page applications, e.preventDefault. Remember our chat earlier about the old, frustrating web? By default, HTML forms literally try to send data to a server and completely reload the browser page. If our page reloads, our entire React state is wiped out. Gone. E.preventDefault stops that default reload dead in its tracks. From there, we run our validation. If we find errors, we update our error state. If we don't, we clear the errors and set our submitted state to true. And this logic translates directly into our visual output on the screen. If a user tests this and leaves the name blank or types a bad email, React instantly re-renders the UI, displaying those specific red error messages directly below the corresponding input fields. But if they do everything right, say they enter john@example.com, and a valid password like secret123, all those red errors instantly vanish, and they're greeted with a bright green registration successful message at the top of the form. It gives the user immediate seamless feedback. All right, we have successfully managed our internal component memory. We've built a really robust, controlled form. But wait, what if our application needs to step outside itself? What if we need to display a list of users that currently lives on a totally remote database server somewhere? How do we fetch that external data without breaking our React application? Well, that brings us right back to our second hook, useEffect. The syntax here requires two arguments, an anonymous function where our actual side effect code lives, and a dependency array. Notice that array, it's just empty brackets. This is a vital, absolutely crucial concept. By leaving this array empty, we are explicitly telling React, hey, only run this effect once, right after this component renders for the very first time. If we left the array off completely, the API would fetch on every single re-render, potentially crashing our entire app in an infinite loop. For initial API calls, that empty array is exactly what we need. Let's look at the actual API fetch code itself. Inside our useEffect, we are using the browser's native fetch function to reach out to JSON placeholder, which is just a great public API for testing stuff like this. Now, fetch returns a promise. When that promise resolves with a response, we hit our first.then block, where we convert that raw response into readable JSON data. Finally, in our second.then block, we take that data, which happens to be an array of 10 fake user objects, and we save it directly into our component state using setUsers. At the exact same time, we call setLoadingFalse. So, what does the user actually experience during this process? When the user list component first mounts, our loading state is initially set to true, so the user briefly sees the text, loading users from API. It's a really small detail, but managing a loading state is a massive best practice for real-world user experience. It lets the user know the app hasn't just frozen on them. A split second later, when the fetch completes, that loading text is instantly replaced by a clean, unordered list mapping out our 10 fetched usernames and their emails. And now, the magic moment where we bring it all together. Let's move over to our app.jsx file and see how this builds our final interface. Look how beautifully simple our main component actually is. Because we encapsulated all the complex state and validation logic inside registrationform and all the fetching and loading logic inside userList, our main app component just imports them and stacks them on top of each other. This right here is the true power of React, composing complex user interfaces out of simple, reusable, independent building blocks. Okay, before we wrap up this explainer, let's do a rapid-fire recap. If you are prepping for a lab viva or an internship interview based on this material, you need to know these concepts cold. What is useEffect for? Performing side effects like API calls. What does the empty array mean? It means run the effect only once on mount. What exactly is a controlled component? It's an input where React state controls the value. What does useState return? An array with the current value and a setter function. Why do we use e.preventDefault? To stop the browser from reloading the page on submit. Why the spread operator? To copy existing data so we don't accidentally overwrite untouched form fields. And finally, why do we need a loading state? To provide immediate visual feedback while we wait for external data to arrive. If you understand those bullet points, you genuinely understand the core mechanics of modern React. So, we've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, from managing internal state memory to fetching data from the outside world. But honestly, the best way to truly cement this knowledge is to break things and build them back up yourself. So here is my challenge to you. Can you modify the code from this explainer to add a brand new phone number field to our registration form? Hook it up to state and add a validation rule that ensures the user types exactly 10 digits before they can successfully register. Fire up your Vite servers, get into your code editors, and give it a shot. What happens if they enter letters instead of numbers? Think about how you'd solve that. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and happy coding.